And then Black Widow. It's a hard one. I don't know.
Black Widow.
Oh yeah, we're ready.
No, we're going. We're just.
Oh yeah, we're going.
Go.
Not everything was recording.
Oh okay. So they're all now.
Oh.
Why
yeah.
don't you give me like a clap, like a big obvious like.
All right, we're going.
Okay.
Again, so I don't know.
Black Widow. Wait, remind me of her character.
Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlett Johansson, man.
Yeah, I know, but I'm trying to remember the character. I'm like,
You haven't seen Infinity War 10 times like me?
no, I haven't. Sorry, I haven't.
I haven't
Okay,
seen
no,
it
no,
10
no.
times like you.
Okay, now
She's
it's coming back.
I think that she was voted the most useless Avenger, which I could actually see that being true, but I don't.
They
have
had
a
a
problem.
really cool. They had a really cool fight scene in Wakanda, where
in the bonus features.
No, when Proxima.
Oh, Proxima Midnight and her were fighting.
Well, yeah, but when Proxima takes or owns Scarlet Witch, and she's about to go in, and then you just hear like
she's
Black
not
Widow.
alone.
Yeah, and then you have like this like nice moment where it's like, oh damn, this is kind of cool.
Yeah, like as far as hand-to-hand combat goes, she's badass, but out of those three. Whatever. All right,
This is
so
a cool scene.
So I have a would you rather question. All right. Well, it's kind of like that. So, say for example, if a billionaire he comes up to you and says like, "Hey man, so I will buy you your dream car, all expenses paid, all mods paid. You don't have to worry about anything. However, you have to eat from the dollar menu from Burger King or to McDonald's or Taco Bell, all foods that will destroy you down there,
Well, I have a preference.
So if he said that to you, but you have to eat there 6 times a day, every single day for about a month. So which car would you pick, and would you be able to do it for a month straight?
Wow.
6 times a day?
6 times a day. So you have to go to
6 times a day.
So you have to go to Mickey D's and order off the dollar menu. God knows what's inside of that food. You have to eat that 6 meals a day for a month straight, and then after that, he hands you the keys. Says that there's no car note. Have fun. Which car and would you do it
For a month?
for 30 days?
So now,
If
I
you
didn't
survive.
watch that movie. Did you watch that one movie where that one dude did that?
I saw it.
Yeah.
He almost died.
Are you talking about Super Size Me?
Yeah, but he was like eating, like
at least like 3 or 4 meals a day.
Yeah.
I think I haven't seen it. In a
Yeah, but
while.
this is all the dollar menu. Like,
The
like-
dollar menu. First off, if your food costs $1,
Yeah.
it ain't food. It's just some science experiment.
well, I'm
at that
just
point.
saying, like, I mean, I don't know. I'd probably go like on like, I wouldn't be going crazy.
But you have to have
One
6
meal.
meals a day, right? Is one meal like $1 fry?
Exact. No. Okay. So I'm. Oh my God.
We're complicating
Yeah,
this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
just, yeah, just make it easy. All right. Just 6 meals a day.
Easy?
Yeah. All right. So which car and would you be able to do it, or would you try it?
I would try it. I would try it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The gains I would make would probably be ridiculous.
I think that my heart might explode in my chest.
Yeah.
But I would try it. I
Really?
would do it for.
Well, I'm a lot closer to you guys than for my heart exploding in my chest, so I probably would.
Well, I think I could do it for, like, a Koenigsegg Agera, or the Agera R. That's my dream car right there.
I don't really know if I have a dream car.
Yeah, I'm kind of on
weird.
the same. Yeah, I'm on the same like line right there. I don't really know. I mean, there are a lot of cars that I like, but I don't
Yeah.
know that I have like a definitive one car.
Yeah, because then
Me
like,
neither, but for just that one.
So
that's
you're just talking car note, right? Is he also going to pay for the servicing? Because like if I get
all
a
expenses
Ferrari,
paid.
okay.
all
That's-
expenses paid, all mods paid, whatever you can think of, it's yours. No hassle, no nothing.
Damn, I don't know. I'd got to go like LaFerrari or
La
something.
Ferrari.
Yeah, that was probably around where I was going.
Yeah?
But yeah, I don't know. That's a hard question. I couldn't tell you.
All right. For purposes of this question, I'm gonna say LaFerrari.
LaFerrari. Okay, so McDonald's for 30 days straight. LaFerrari. If you survive.
Cardio.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. So I'm probably not gonna do it.
I'm gonna die trying.
Oh, we're right there with you. We despise cardio. All right, guys. So we made it to the second episode of the Jada Cast podcast, and how's everyone doing?
Good. Doing fine.
Kind of sleepy, but you know.
It's that 3 o'clock feeling on a Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard somebody call Thursday Friday's Eve.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. I was like, that's somebody who lives for the weekend, definitely.
Right. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool with that, though. So, some of the topics that we have here today, I want to think of it kind of like, for people who might be new to our products, be new to maybe the whole collectible car scene. A lot of people, they might not know the intricacies of what it takes to make a die-cast car.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that it would be cool if we could sort of, try to map that out a little bit better. So I know that for a fact, when I had first started here, I had no idea what a die-cast car was. I just thought it was like, any other car, what kind of like, Hot Wheels or something like that. I had no idea what a die-cast car exactly is. And so could we go into details and then elaborate further on, well, what exactly is a die-cast collectible car?
Well, what's your idea of it now that you've been working here?
Now that I've been working here, my idea of it is probably something like, it's made out of, metal, 100% metal. The details are bar none, almost flawless. It's lifelike. It's heavy, just to show off its quality. And I know that it's super expensive to make and tool. So that's kind of my idea of it. I'm probably still a little squirrely on that one, but that's my idea of what a die-cast.
So for the most part, it may not be 100% die-cast.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good portion of it is die-cast, maybe at least 60%. With what we're doing with it. There's a lot of cool features or characteristics of die-cast that make it feel more valuable and more quality. It's the heaviness. Mm-hmm. The cold touch also is a nice feel. When you grab a toy car that's plastic, it doesn't have that cold feel to it.
Oh, this is pretty cold, right?
Yeah, and it's kind of comforting to your hand when you feel it. Just a little bit. So
it just feels so safe.
But yeah, there's the amount of detail you can get onto it. It's definitely a collectible thing because of the quality and how long they can last. Plastic toys are usually made to be broken pretty much. You don't really collect a plastic toy. They're made to be played with. These are more durable, but because of the craftsmanship that goes into them, you don't want them to be really played with as much. Mm-hmm. Although, you can. We're in the business of making toys. Yeah. So you can play with them. And then our toys are typically more affordable than some of the higher end collectible die-cast. Mm-hmm. So, you can play with these all you want. They'll last you a good long time. It's just you don't have to worry about breaking a $100 124 scale die-cast because we're more affordable. But that doesn't cut back on the quality because Jada Toys basically is what we were founded on is the idea of having a quality collectible at an affordable price. Mm-hmm. And that's that's how we've been doing things for as long as I've been here.
Okay.
I think to add to that point too, it's all, I think, perception. I think also when you're talking about die-cast, a lot of it is just in the material of it, right? Like the things or the material that it's actually made out of. But in today's day and age, with cost of goods and all that, rising, it's becoming a little bit more expensive to manufacture these things. Mm-hmm. So you start to see a lot of companies kind of stray away from that and going into plastic. And again, kind of like what Mike was alluding to earlier was like, well, plastic's not, in our opinion, like a true collectible. It doesn't have like that feeling. And going back to perception, when you hold a die-cast model versus like a plastic model, there's just no comparison. It's night and day. It doesn't even look the same. Like the paint, like if you hit it with a metallic paint or candy finish, it just doesn't stick the same. So it's almost like bringing back a piece of nostalgia into the model.
Yeah. It's not only cars; it's our figures too.
Right,
If you ever pick up a plastic figure and then you pick up one of our pick up one of our diecast figures, almost always when someone picks them up for the first time, they're like, "Whoa, wow!" And the first thing they think is quality because of the weight. And most of our figures, especially the nanos, are 100% diecast. A lot of the other 4-inch figures, depending on what property it is, could be 100% diecast or at least 51% diecast. But that weight and that feel equates to quality.
That's exactly how I felt when I first started to work here. I picked up just some of our stuff, and I was like, "Whoa! I feel like I could hurt somebody with this." If I, dropped it on their foot or something.
Exactly.
It's kind of a workout,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's kind of like the best of both worlds, I think, because we were talking about earlier about the ability to play with. If one desired to, you very well could, but it also really lends itself just to be displayed very nicely. Just again with the quality and the craftsmanship that goes behind it, I think it just looks good on shelf.
Yeah.
Or in package, whatever people choose to do with it.
It was kind of made to be glossed over.
Yeah. Well, I mean, most of the people that I know will like pose them around their desk at work, surrounding themselves with these cool little collectible things. And I think it's just, it's all preference and how you want to collect. Some people collect in package, some people collect out of package, or some people do 3 by 3 copies of the same thing.
Do that, guys.
Yeah, exactly. And so like they open one, store one, and keep one in package.
All right. Well, that pretty much sums it up pretty good.
Yeah.
So, I know that some of this is that secret, confidential information, but if we could sort of talk about it a little bit, but how much does it cost to make a die-cast figure typically? Well, we don't have to give away exact figures or anything like that, but just ballpark estimates and what exactly is factored into those costs? Why, especially for maybe a single pre-production sample. I was kind of astounded to learn of how expensive that it really is.
Yeah, that's I don't know the costing for all that, but I just know it's pretty expensive. And there's multiple but steps that we have to take, and each step has a different cost to it. So, and at the end of the day, after we go through all the steps, it can get pretty substantial.
It's I mean, like there are different factors I think that play into the creation of one figure, one model. I think it all kind of starts without kind of going like a little too in depth in it, but it's just like it all starts with you identify maybe what that particular product item is going to be. If it's a license thing, you're going to be bringing in the licensor and going into negotiations and things like that. And there's always going to be some sort of like fees hidden in that, right? And then you enter a contract, things of that nature. Then you're talking about from the manufacturing standpoint, opening a new tool for the creation of something that doesn't yet exist, and there's a cost associated with that. Then you get into other variations or steps within that process of sample making to the final product. Like the cost just kind of keeps building and building. So without going like too in depth, that's just kind of like a quick look or glance at some of the processes that we have to go through to get to the finished product.
Yeah, it can get pretty involved, and if I can get into a little bit more detail, I think I'll kind of explain and run through how it goes from concept to completed project or product. So we start off with a concept board. It's just an illustration of what the product is going to be, and then we would submit that to the licensors, or we show it to all the salespeople here, and because this is coming from the product development side. We show to the salespeople here and see if they all agree that this is a good product that we want to move forward with. So once that's done, then if it has a licensor involved, so say like it's a Chevy, we have to send the idea to Chevy and say, this is what we want to do. This is the cost of the product that it's going to be on shelf. You guys down to do it? And then they say yes or no. If they say yes, then we move on to 3D. So we have our illustrators and our vehicle designers start designing the car in a line art form. We call it a technical drawing. And from that technical drawing, we have to send it over to our 3D artists who will make it into a 3D digital file, which we then submit to our licensors again. And then they approve or disapprove or give us comments. And once that's approved, then we go on to making what's called a clay. And that's just a clay model of the actual product. This is the first time we're actually going to be able to hold it and feel it. This clay model now, it's called a clay. It used to be made of clay. Now it's 3D printed. So it's a lot lighter, a lot more efficient to make. It may not be as detailed because sometimes the 3D prints are lower resolution.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you'll see like these lines and stuff all over the place. But then they do have polished ones sometimes. It depends on who the licensor is and what they require when we submit it. After the clay, it goes on to what's called a hand sample, which is a plastic version of the actual diecast vehicle. Everything is plastic, even the diecast parts. We take that, look at it, make sure that it looks good, all the fitment is correct, all the hinges are working, and then we submit that to the licensor, get the approval. Then we go into what's called a first shot. It's the very first car that comes out of the tooling molds. So in between the hand sample and the first shot is the tooling process, and that takes a while, and that's really expensive. And once we get the hand sample or the first shot done, get that approved, then we go on to production.
Okay.
Whew. Yeah. I mean, the typical time frame that goes to finish that part of it up is probably about a good average is around 9 months.
9 months?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Damn.
Yeah.
Well, that was quite a mouthful.
Yeah, it is.
You know.
It's quite the process, really.
It is, yeah. So there's a lot of steps that go along with it, and there's a lot of back and forth between the licensors and the design team. And then in between all that, the marketing people have to start to figure out when they can start marketing these things and not doing it too early, and if there's an embargo date and when they can't show and when they can show, and it's
It's a lot to consider.
yeah.
And that's just one item.
Yeah, that's just one item. And then we have like what bunch, like multiple items.
We
that
have
come out.
we have hundreds of things per line, almost, it seems.
Multiple items, multiple brands, multiple licensors, all different things to take into consideration, when we're talking about starting something new.
But Daryl, why can't you just create this car I want? Like, why can't you just make this? Be like, hey, you should make. I'm being a little tongue in cheek here. It's just something I see.
We've
It's
all
something.
seen it.
Yeah, I see it on our social media all the time, and make no mistake, guys. I love you. Y'all pay my bills. I love talking to you and stuff like that. But I always have people asking, or not even asking, but they're just commanding. Saying like, hey, make this. Hey, make that. And I'm like, we would love to, man. I would love to have that out, but it's not exactly that simple. It's not. I can't just pull it off of an apple tree. It's a lot more complex than that.
Yeah.
Let me real quick.
Okay.
Let me. I worked here for 10 years.
Yeah.
I would love them to make my truck. We haven't made our truck, and I'm the one in charge of the diecast department. Yeah. So there's reasons why we don't do certain vehicles. There's reasons why we, whether it's a lot of it is out of our hands. I would love to do a lot of your cars, a lot of the people who have like really cool cars. It's just that either the buyers aren't into that kind of vehicle, or the market is not buying that style of vehicle. We have to watch the trends and see where it's going, and maybe it's just not the right time to get these things into the marketplace.
Right.
Maybe it's just not popular enough. Maybe it's there's a lot of other, like, so many different like reasons why we can or can't make a vehicle in diecast as a toy, because it's there's just too many factors.
Yes, it's never personal.
Oh yeah, definitely not. No, definitely not.
And it's also like opening the floodgates, so to speak, right? Because you're like, oh, once you do one, then people are gonna be like, oh, well, what about me? Like, and you don't want to alienate people. You don't want to make them feel like their car is not like good enough. Like
Yeah.
it's
But
not
we want to.
I mean, come on. Like, the reality is they're like, and kind of how Mike just walked you through the process of making like one die-cast vehicle. There's just going back to it all. There's just so many things to take into consideration. It could be a license thing. It could be a buyer thing, a retailer thing. Maybe the demand for the particular vehicle is not enough. Maybe the style of the vehicle is not really true to Jada style. Just like I said, multiple things to take into consideration. And while at the end of the day, we would love to do a lot of the ones that we see, again, maybe it's just not the right time. Maybe it could come later down the road, or maybe you see like an inspired by version, maybe, right? Like there are different routes that we can take in terms of our approach to that.
Yeah, and doing this for so many years, it's just we kind of know, we have a feeling for what will work and what won't work. Sometimes there's things that really surprise us. Like, and we were talking about this yesterday. Typically, like cars that aren't on the street here in the United States don't do really well because people aren't familiar with what that car is.
There's no emotional connection to it
correct.
just yet.
Yeah, but one of our best-selling vehicle diecast in 124 and 132 is the Lykan Hypersport. And for some reason, that car has done really well, even though it's only in one scene of one Fast and Furious movie, and no one's ever seen it out here. Actually, there's only 11 of them in the world.
I think.
I mean, not including the Veneer, just the Hypersport.
The Hypersport, I think that they've only produced 7 of them.
7, okay.
And like only 2 of them have actually sold.
So it's super, super rare. Nobody really knows what the car, but it's doing really well for us. So that one is one of the surprise items from us, and it's cool. We love it. I mean, they're cool partners, and
they are.
Yeah,
they are. Well, there has to be like some type of fantasy aspect to that, maybe, as to why people are buying it.
I agree. It's just that one just really just
There's
took us by
I mean,
surprise.
like there's some strange ones, honestly. Like, I mean, to the Lykan Hypersport, I guess I can kind of understand it because it's like, I mean,
there's nothing like it.
no,
Oh,
I think when you're talking about like the aesthetic of that car, just whether in reality or how we're able to replicate it down to a diecast execution, like it's a beautiful looking car.
Yeah.
So in terms of like approaching it that way, I can understand. What I can't understand actually in our Fast and Furious line, the 124 scale, is the ripsaw.
The ripsaw.
So for those of you guys who don't know or like haven't seen it, the ripsaw is the tank.
The tank. Yeah,
that,
the tank treads. Our only diecast vehicle in the line with tank treads.
Yeah, like
And
what?
Yeah.
Of all the Fast and Furious cars, like that, in a period of time at the retail stores, like that was the #1 selling vehicle. I just couldn't wrap my mind around that.
yeah, that was really odd to me too, because you think of Fast and Furious as a custom car property.
Yeah.
And then here comes a tank that's just doing gangbusters at retail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you have cars like the like the Cuda or the Ice Charger, like the Chevy, the Stingray Corvette, like all these cars, these classic cars, and maybe even like super modified cars. That's very true to the Fast and Furious DNA. And
Who drove that car? That
the tank,
Yeah.
Tej.
Luda.
Luda. Yeah, see,
The
and
tech
also
guy.
like
Luda.
usually the main character cars are the ones that sell well for us.
Yeah.
And this was, he is the main character. I mean,
But
don't
he's
get
not
me
like
wrong,
the
but he's not
hero car.
Yeah.
Like,
And it was just again, it's one scene. It
Oh,
wasn't really
kind of, yeah.
featured that like crazy in any of those scenes. It wasn't like jumping out of a building. It was just
Yeah.
being thrown around by a submarine, right? Was that the one?
Or escaping from a submarine,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, but I mean that's an anomaly. Like I can't even understand that. At
Yeah,
least the
yeah.
Hypersport I can.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but even the Hypersport, like W Motors, no one's really heard of it until the movie.
Right. Yeah.
You got the Lamborghini, you got Ferrari, you got Bentley, you got Koenigsegg. There's all these names that are out there that are really crazy, that are crazy popular. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's some of them didn't do as well as what this Lykan Hypersport's doing.
And they've actually been around as a company for quite some time now.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
mean,
and
they're
that's
doing
sort
some
of
cool
like their
stuff.
breakthrough. Yeah, well, the Veneer is just out of this world.
yeah. It's ridiculous.
Man.
Shout out to W Motors.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like, hey guys, I'd really like to hang out out there sometime. You know,
thought we weren't
take
doing
a trip
shout-outs.
by. Hey, they're a partner of ours.
Okay,
It's
they're
all
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Showing some love over here.
But you know, another one that just sells crazy, and every time I post it on social media, it gets stupid amount of likes. For Grand National,
That's a classic.
it gets
Yeah,
a
that's
crazy
a
amount of
classic.
likes.
You know what?
No matter what it does, stupid amount of likes,
When
like 2,500 minimum.
Whenever I'm at a car show or anything car related, and they know that, and I'm representing Jada Toys, there's at least one person coming up to me asking, when you guys going to do the Grand National again? When you going to do it? Because they know about it. They knew that we had it before. And now that we re-released it and are doing it again, they're all over it. I mean, there's a big community that's just all about that car.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, and you find that with a lot of other cars too. Like I know there's a Merc community out there, and
Merc.
yeah, the Mercury Coupe 51,
Brush up on your car history, man.
Harley Quinn Bombshell. Maybe that'll ring a bell.
Okay. All you had to say.
Coming soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I'm embarrassed. I call myself a car guy.
Well, the classic car is a whole different monster.
Oh
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's too much to really, to wrap my mind around.
Yeah.
Well, with all of those facts in mind, so I feel like that pretty clearly illustrates why we can't just come up with like any car out of nowhere. Another thing that you had pointed out to me a while ago that was pretty interesting was like, if we were to come out with like a certain wave of cars and one is just sitting there, how it could tarnish our line in a way.
Yeah,
Would
yeah.
you
So
elaborate that?
yeah, so this kind of goes along with the topic that you were talking about of doing cars that we don't think will work in a line.
Yeah.
If we have a wave of 6 cars, for example, 124 scale, and one of them doesn't sell well, so imagine on the store level, on the shelf, you have 6 cars. 5 of them get sold. There's 1 left. The store has to replenish that shelf with new product. So they bring out another box of the same wave, put all 6 cars out. 5 of that 6 car pack gets sold. Now you have 2 of those dog cars that don't sell well on the shelf. Do that multiple times. Now your shelf is filled with 1 car that doesn't sell well, and it won't ever sell. And what happens is it stays stagnant. If they don't have room to replenish, they don't reorder from us, and it looks really bad because now it looks like we have a wave of just 1 car on the shelf. So we have to be really careful on what cars we choose to do, because if there's one that doesn't sell well and it stays on the shelf, we call them peg warmers. It'll make us look bad not only to the consumers because it doesn't look like we're doing anything new, because all they see is just this 1 car on the shelf, and it also looks bad to the retailers because now they're not moving any product.
Right.
Also could potentially put the line at risk of being moved off the shelf, which we don't ever want.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, because people start to associate the entire line with just that one car.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone remembers the worst part of like any bad news. Like whenever you hear news, whether it's good or bad, you always remember the bad, right?
Yeah.
So if you're
Just that
looking at the
natural human
shelf,
tendency.
yeah, if you're looking at the shelf and you see 1 bad car in a wave, you're like, oh man, I don't like that product because they made this 1 car.
Like, oh, that company sucks.
Yeah, yeah. And it's maybe sound weird, but yeah, we've heard that before, and we've had experiences where 1 car did kill a whole line. And
Really?
yeah.
Well, should we talk about that or maybe not?
I mean, I think it's
Well,
an
for which
older
car
line.
exactly was it?
PT Cruiser.
Oh.
See, even your
Yeah.
your face just said it all.
Yeah, the PT Cruiser. We did a PT Cruiser in a 164 scale line that was an awesome line, but we threw that 1 car in, and it just didn't do well,
Yeah.
and it pretty much killed the line.
Yeah, I mean, we love y'all and everything, but yeah, the PT Cruiser, that's just an abomination. I'm sorry. Well, nothing personal to our
Chrysler,
team
man.
here.
Come on.
Yeah. I mean, hey, man, it is what it is.
Well, I think it wasn't that. It was the PT Cruiser it just didn't fit in the line. It's not the car itself as a design. It was the genre of what that car was in.
So we had it in what Big Time Muscle line?
No, the PT Cruiser was actually in our lowrider line.
Oh, okay.
So it didn't really match with that style, or it wasn't a car that people thought was desirable. People were doing it; they were fixing up that car in that style, but it just was one car that people were like, oh, why would I want to buy that one? Because it's it wasn't really
It's not
fitting.
Really, so we have a couple of cars that are like that I think like I feel like the Ford GT. It's kind of somewhere in between a muscle car, but it's also a supercar at the same time.
Yeah.
But, so we have it in the Big Time Muscle line, which is awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
Also the Lykan Hypersport. I know that is a part of BTM.
Yeah. Well, it is because there's sometimes that we are asked by the retailers to put this vehicle in, and they like it. They want it into their assortment on the store level. So we either throw it in as Big Time Muscle or Big Time Custom. That was a rare one where we did throw it into that, but
it kind of seems like it would be like an hyperspec almost.
Yeah, and we are putting it in hyperspec.
Oh, okay.
So that will be coming soon. Actually, there's some cool designs coming from that. I'll be excited for everyone to see that. But yeah, the Lykan Hypersport, it does cross over a lot. The Ford GT crosses over a lot. A lot of the trucks will also cross over, like especially the classic trucks, like the step sides. They'll cross over from Big Time Muscle into just trucks.
Interesting. Well, that's all I have for today, everybody. So does anybody have anything else that they want to mention?
Well, I mean, we can kind of keep it going a little bit. I think, just to kind of elaborate a little bit, like, we alluded to hyperspec, right? We alluded to Big Time Muscle. So I'm sure, like, for the people that are actually been following us for quite some time, they're pretty familiar with Big Time Muscle. It's one of our longest lasting lines. And
like wave 178.
Yeah,
something ridiculous like that.
Yeah,
but
159 actually.
Yeah, but like, it's pretty much what that name implies, right? Like, it's just a line full of muscle cars, and when you have like a line that's ongoing for as long as it has, you're pretty much exhausting everything from like your classic muscle car to your modern muscle car, right? Same thing with our new JDM tuners line, but that obviously is tailored more towards the Japanese domestic market, with the old Japanese import vehicles scene starting to come back. We're kind of putting that Big Time Muscle DNA back into the JDM tuners line, where you have your total classic Japanese cars to your modern Japanese cars.
Yeah.
And now I think with the introduction, of hyperspec, it's just, what's the best way to describe it? Almost like a German, Italian, like supercar collection of supercars, really.
Yep.
So if you think about like inserting something like the Lykan Hypersport, I'm not even really sure what that is, but it's a hypercar, or to that effect. So then it makes sense to go into that line, right? So you think about like the Ford GT, for example, right? I mean, it is a muscle car, so it makes sense in the Big Time Muscle line. And going back to sticking the Lykan into the Big Time Muscle line, well, now we have a dedicated line such as hyperspec for it to go into, for it to live into. I think a lot of big things coming from us. I think it's really exciting that we're being able to break into different categories of vehicles, whether it's your classic muscle, your modern JDM, or just what every car enthusiast, kind of grows up dreaming about in like the supercars.
I got a question. The Nsx is considered a supercar. Would we throw that into hyperspec?
I think it should go into hyperspec because it's actually considered a hypercar, to be more exact, right? It is a hybrid, right?
We talking the new NSX or
the
the
new
classic
NSX? Well, right
NSX?
now we don't have the new NSX as a casting, but if we were to, where would you see it in both, or would you see it more in hyperspec?
That's kind of a hard one.
My opinion is to keep it strictly in JDM tuners.
Really?
Yeah, because my viewpoint on the I don't know. It's just like the NSX has always been like one of the JDM kings for me. And when I associate like hyperspec, for example, the first thing that comes into my mind is like the Lamborghinis, maybe the Ferrari, like more of the exotics, the Germans, right? The Italians, and everything like that.
It's interesting because for me, the older NSX, I think should stay in JDM.
Definitely.
But the new version, to me, doesn't speak tuner.
It doesn't, its body lines and the design of it is
Very futuristic.
Yeah, I mean, like it's got an interesting design. It's definitely modernized. It's elegant. It's like sleek looking.
I mean, there's ways we can like modify it to make it look more tuner. Like if we go to the JDTC route,
right?
Or just throwing our flair onto it. I think we can make it a JDM type car, but I think it can live in both.
Yeah, it's kind of
for me. That's my opinion.
Area. Yeah, I actually saw one a month ago on Valley Boulevard.
Really,
a black one.
Really,
I saw a blue one on the freeway the other day. Actually,
really, I haven't seen one in the wild yet. It's one thing I want to see. I
mean,
I've seen Ford GTs.
Have you?
Yeah. I've seen when we were driving up the coast, going up north to where we were going, Santa Barbara or something. There was one up there.
Are we talking the 2005 or the 2017?
17.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite
I have a Ford GT story. Actually, it was pretty fun.
Really?
It was a Ford GT and a Carrera GT.
Okay.
I'm driving. I had a MR2 Spider, and the top was down. It was a warm summer night, and I hear this rumbling coming to my left side. And I look to my left, and it was an older Ford GT, and it was like like the 2000 model, like or 2000
well, 2005.
5, yeah.
Yeah.
So it pulls up next to me. It's this crazy rumble. It sounded awesome, and I'm looking at it. And I'm like, wow. And then I look to my right, another rumble comes, and it was the Carrera GT. Ooh. And I'm like, dude. So I let off my gas and just let them do their thing. Because I was like, I'm this little dinky little MR2 Spider.
Nah, dude, you're supposed to go. You're supposed to go. Just take pride in it. Just go.
I know. I was like, man, my car was totally stock. And I was like, if I were to rev on them at 10,000 RPM or whatever, I'd be like,
I would have. It's a little fart in the wind.
Yeah, exactly, dude. But it was an experience because the Ford GT had such a rumble that it was
a V8 back
yeah,
then,
and you can feel it. It was like, and this was on the freeway with my top down. You can, the wind was blowing, and it pulled up next to me. I can feel it. And then the Carrera, it didn't sound nearly as deep, but I can tell there was something coming on my right side.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I don't know if these guys are messing with me or what, but let me just I don't belong. I'm just gonna back off here.
Backing down. Backing down. Please don't make me feel like crap.
Exactly. But that was a cool experience actually.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. Wish I had a cool story like that. None comes to mind right now, actually.
No?
No. Not with like a supercar.
Yeah.
No, the coolest thing was what I saw, like a LaFerrari rolling on the on the 101.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like a month ago.
Ooh.
Yeah, that broke my neck.
I mean, just yeah.
Not a lot of things break my neck, but that that does.
When you see them, I mean, I still get blown away whenever I see, even though they're more popular now, or that you see them more often. But any McLaren,
yes,
when they're on the street.
Can I tell you something? Like being in the industry that we are, just like with toys and making vehicles in particular, like it's natural that we get rooted into the aftermarket automotive scene, right? Like the community and stuff like that, because that's really the basis or foundation of where a lot of the inspiration behind these vehicles come from. And so naturally we partake in like some of these aftermarket events at the shows and whatnot. So we're around a lot of these really cool cars. And is it just me that gets like a little desensitized to being around like the supercar? You know what I mean? Like when you go to these events, when you go to multiple events and you see like these custom, like whether they're wide body Lamborghinis, Ferraris, or even just done up where they're lowered, they have some sort of a kit and wheel on it. you just see them over and over and over again. That like when you're rolling on the regular street and you see a regular like Aventador just stock rolling, it's like, first of all, it's very typical out in LA. And second, you're seeing like all these extremely modified versions of them that like you're just kind of like, eh.
Well, you're exactly right. Like when I first saw that the Liberty Walk Lamborghini, what year was that? I think it was 3 years ago.
Something like 2-3 years ago.
Yeah. After that, every Lamborghini I see, it seems like it's missing something. You know,
I see.
yeah, because it was so aggressive and so like the lines just worked really well. It seems like, you know, what's wrong with this one? It doesn't feel like it's complete.
Well, like, yeah, it's like that, but also, you know, like for us living here in LA where it's more or less, it's pretty common, I think, to be able to see these things, but you're taking it like one step higher in these shows, right? So it's funny because like for people that are not so rooted or involved in like the car culture of it all, maybe to them, they see it, they're like, oh, dude, that's so cool. It's a Ferrari, it's a Lamborghini. And we're just kind of like, yeah, I guess.
Well, I mean,
but
yeah,
I mean,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like if you see a Civic on the street, a stock Civic, it's like a stock Civic. But then when you go to the shows and you see a Civic that's fixed up, you're more inclined to be like, oh, that's cool. But you can, it's still the same Civic.
Never.
Oh man,
I'm sorry.
This guy is.
I'm sorry.
There's a history. Like
I'm
there's
a Honda Civic hater. So I'm one of those guys.
there's a history for that car. And I do see what you mean, but like I
Oh
think,
crap! It's right there. I forgot.
but I think like, you know, you see it so often. I think with these supercars in particular, it's just kind of like, and that's what I was referring to. Like, not a lot of things break my neck when I see them nowadays, like on the street, because I think I see them so much at the shows that if I saw like a regular 488 or an Aventador or a Huracan rolling on the street, cool, right. But it's not gonna be like, but like you don't see a LaFerrari every day. You don't see a McLaren P1 every day. And when you do come across one of those, then that's like, whoa. Like, then that can be stock for all I care. That's like $1 million, $2 million hypercar at that point.
Nothing else that you could do to it at that point. You know?
Right. So, that's...
Have you guys seen the McLaren Senna?
I have.
Not in person.
No?
Oh, yeah, not in person.
Yeah. That one's pretty sick.
I saw a video clip of it rolling on the freeway actually over the weekend. I was like, ooh, I don't know what I would do if I came across one of those on the freeway.
Oh, yeah. Man, it's such an interesting car because like, you know, it's kind of ugly, but it's gorgeous at the same time.
Yeah.
And because you see its lines, but you could tell it's got like every single piece of it is made to function. You know, it's made to just add the downforce. It's just made to just take on all kinds of G-forces and stuff like that. It's just a beautiful, ridiculous car. Yeah, McLaren has always had a soft spot for me. No, I've always had a soft spot for McLaren. Excuse me. So I wish that they had a soft spot. I would be wrong. Yeah, but yeah, I feel like with me, I'm still kind of like a little kid every time I see a Lambo. You know, even if it's stock. But I get what you're saying. Yeah, because we see a lot of cool stuff, and so it does have that sort of aspect of like it's kind of missing something.
Yeah.
You know?
Don't get me wrong though. I think like when it comes time for us to kind of translate, you know, whatever it is, even if it's stock, into like a diecast model, that's still an exciting component to it all, because at the end of the day, you still want to do your due diligence to capture the true identity of what that vehicle is and what it looks like. And in doing so, I think you capture all like, you get to see the smaller details of that car that maybe you don't see, you know, like from the very beginning. So like when we're talking about crafting like the kit for the car, for example, or anything like the sharp lines, the edges, or when we're taking images for content or promotion on social media, we're actually looking at this car and thinking, okay, maybe this angle, maybe the rear quarter panel, because the lines are so sharp. Those things that you don't see initially, that when it does get translated into a diecast model and we have to take a look at all these things, then it's kind of like, okay, this is now when it gets really cool. And you have more of an appreciation in that regard.
in our line of work, we get really intimate with some of these cars. Like they'll send us the references. You know what I'm saying? And
You guys staring into each other's eyes now.
Oh, man.
but you get the like these reference images or maybe even go out to see the car in person. But because of what we do, we need to make sure that the detail is there. So we have to like look at every little bit of the car, every little inch. You going inside the car, looking at all the interior, taking pictures of every little angle so we get the lines just right. And it's cool to be able to see like and appreciate the craftsmanship that goes into these cars. From the Hondas all the way up to the Lamborghinis. We get to appreciate every little bit that goes into all of these cars, and I think it's kind of rewarding. And then once you see that your model done, and then you compare it to the real one, and it looks pretty close, and it's appreciated by the licensor or the companies that manufacture the vehicle. That's just icing.
Yeah. Then at that point, it's like, oh, we've done this car justice. We've done it the Jada way.
Yeah.
And there's no other way to do it. So.
There is no other way to do it.
Nope.
Yeah.
So.
Well, along those same lines, guys, I think we had a great talk here.
What time are we at?
47 minutes.
Yeah,
47
pretty good.
minutes? Oh, okay, that's a PR for us. All right, everybody. So if you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to like and subscribe and tune in for next week. Okay, see you next time. Peace.